this down a little bit. Last night, I started listening to some meaningful albums of 1993. This is loose. This is based off of a thread that Marty Worm put out years ago, revisiting those old threads that meant a lot to me. And I thought about doing my most meaningful albums as a response, but I started listening to 1993 shit, and I come up with this kind of spin off that old thread. Wait, hold on, listen to this shit. I picked 10 of my most favorite albums of 1993. 1993 was a big year for me because it was the first year I was on my own. It's the first year I had my own car. I had a CD player, and I was buying music such as this shit right here. Actually, this Cathedral album, the Ethereal Mirror, is my favorite one. I do love the Forest of Equilibrium. Fuck, I couldn't spit that out. But to me, this one for me has always grabbed me. Those doomy ass riffs. Dorian's vocals on this are my favorite of his. So much character, charisma. The riffs on this fucking thing, Jesus Christ. Some of the most badass fucking riffs ever. My favorite tracks on this is Ride. the two singles, Midnight Mountain. I love those fucking tracks. This song is playing in the background. This Jaded Eternity, I think it says. I can't tell. Grim Luxuria. Man, there was another one. I want to say. Oh, I can't fucking see it. There's a little short acoustic piece with vocals at the very end that just fucking badass. Enter the Worms. This album was in my tape on my CD player constantly back in 1993, and it's still one of my go-tos in the 1993 realm of metal. There was something special about that, and I think a lot of it was I was just getting out of the thrash and glam metal and starting to get into the more extreme side. And to me, back then, 1993, Cathedral was on the extreme side with the Forest of Equilibrium and the Ethereal Mirror. Fucking badass masterpiece, as you can hear in the background. So, fucking the shit. And a lot of these I've talked about so many times. Man, listen to that riff. Don't know this album, get on it. I will put a link in the description below. I know many of you do know this album, but let's move forward. So like I was saying, 1993, that's the year I got into death metal, so a lot of these are death metal albums, but I'll get a couple of magic albums like the Ethereal Mirror, Edge of Thorns by Sabotage. I still have my original cassette. I chose to show the vinyl because it's a bigger picture. But this album right here, I was always a Sabotage fan. And then when this album was released, I think I heard the first track on Headbanger's Ball. Too many of these are getting to me. But the title track, Edge of Thorns, came on, and it starts off with that piano. And then I wasn't expecting a vocalist change. I didn't know that they replaced. There was a different singer on it. I'll just put it that way. I can't remember his name. I'm not good with freaking names when I talk about bands. But this fucking album grabbed me. This is one that I listen to quite a bit, and still to this day listen to this son of a bitch a lot. So whenever they reissued these, you damn right I was getting a fucking copy. I did have this on CD, but it's gone. I still, like I said, I still have my cassette. Favorite tracks on this are definitely Follow Me. I love that I love the vocal performance on that. The guitar work on that is just freaking astounding. I like Damien. It's kind of got a funk to it for heavy metal or power metal. I love how they did that. Of course, the title track, Edge of Thorns, he carves in stone. That riff and that freaking will grab your soul. That's just a fucking killer riff. Even the damn freaking instrumentals, Labyrinths or exit music. And of course the very last track was basically just acoustic guitar and vocals, I believe, if I remember right. Fuck, Sleep. 1993, this is a fucking majestic album. It takes me back in time every time I fucking hear it. I love it. Sabotage, Edge of Thorns. Another one, this is actually my original CD from back then. I lost most of my CDs in unfortunate circumstances, but a couple of them survived. So, Paradise Icon. My buddy was playing Christendom in his car one day, and it just starts off with that fucking killer fucking acoustic or clean guitar at the beginning, and then when the drums kick in and it has that bass drive and that keyboard and that freaking operatic vocals from a female comes in, it takes you to another fucking planet, another world. It's just freaking magical as fuck. This is my favorite Paradise Lost album. Always has been. I love all their shits, but this is definitely my favorite one. I can't see the fucking titles of the songs, god damn it. I just remember this coming with a big ass poster back then when CDs gave a shit, it seemed like. The jewel case is nice and thick and hefty. Shown this album so many times, but it's well worth talking about. Colossal Reigns. Also, another thing, I like how they did the lead guitar in this album. It just has very epic and emotion to it, especially on Christendom. That I fucking love that riff. Man, there's so many good ones. I even like the instrumental at the end. That piano work on that is very doomy, but the piano work on that's very classically influenced. Beethoven would have been proud. So, killer fucking album from 1993, Paradise Lost. God damn, this album's fucking badass. The only other CD that survived from 1993 is Dio, Strange Highways. So, this album, when it first came out, I got it, and I love the very first track, Jesus, Mary, and the Holy Ghost. I love what they did with the vocals, everything about that track, but the track, my favorite track on this is Strange Highways, the title track. And what it is I good for nothing, going nowhere, so they say. I love that fucking lyric. Back then I kind of felt kind of out of place. I struggled a little bit financially, but at the same time, I was still picking up a couple albums and surviving. And this album's helped me survive. Dio's Holy or Strange Highways was called the motherfucker. And I remember just a kind of a single thing. They kind of went cheap on this motherfucker. But badass album. There's so many good ones on this one. Of course, Jesus, Mary, and the Holy Ghost. Strange Highways. I love those fucking tracks. Evolution. Love that. One Foot in the Grave. And there was one, goddamn, what was that song called? Give Her the Gun. Fucking badass track. Killer fucking album from 1993. And then, of course, these are more of the death metal side. Not the first death metal albums I heard, just when I got into death metal, these are the first several, I don't know how many's there, that I picked up. I think there's 6. But the very first Carcass album I heard, and like I said, by the way, 1993 is when I got into death metal. I mean, I heard death metal before that, but I wasn't much impressed until I heard Blessed Art of Sick by Morbid Angel, which is still my all-time favorite Morbid Angel album and underrated as fuck. And this album is as well. The very first Carcass album I ever heard was Heartwork. I remember my buddy playing this in the fucking car, and the opening riff blew me away. That guitar tone blew me a fucking way. And it's Buried Dreams. I had to look for a second. Buried Dreams hooked me on this album. And I didn't get it immediately. It wasn't until I heard Heartwork, the title track on Hell's Headbangers Ball. I always want to call that show Hell's Headbangers. But what struck me was they're kind of just standing in this room in a tight freaking circle. Fucking blows me away. I love the bass guitar in this. I love the guitar work in this. I love the fucking vocals in this. I think, of course, a lot of people would consider this melodic death metal, which I do. But the vocals, to me, almost have nowadays that I'm looking back and listening to a lot more melodic black metal. There might be a little stretch just because the vocals has a little bit of that blackened tinge. Just me personally, that's my opinion. But this album right here, holy shit, blew me the fuck away the first time I heard it. I think Death Certificate, Bleeding the Blind, This Mortal Coil, fuck my life. This album is a fucking masterpiece. I know some people bitch about it because they're wanting a grindcore album, but I like the direction that Carcass went with this album, and I wish they had more albums that sound like this, which honestly, I think Surgical still had a little bit of that sound, and Torn Arteries does too. But this is the pinpoint fucking badass 1993 Carcass album, in my opinion. I love that fucking album. Next up, 1993, of course, got into death metal. And of this band, the first album I heard was Human Waste. And then Effigies of the Forgotten. And then this album was released during the summer, I remember, in May, if I remember right, and I got this immediately. Suffocation, Bleeding the Spawn. And to be honest about the production, I love the fucking raw-ass production on this. I think it's perfect with the album. I think the bass work stands out the most on this album, and that's what attracts me to this album the most, is that bass work. It sounds like they're just jamming in a basement on this album, and that's what I really love the production about this album. Breeding the Spawn. I might have said Bleeding the Spawn. But I remember when I first heard it, I didn't even notice production was kind of wonky until somebody said they didn't like the production. And I said, sounds fine to me. And then I noticed it later on. So, still love the fucking album. I think this is some of their best work. I love how lately, or if you go through their catalog, they have at least one track at the end or so of each album. Reading the Spawn is a fucking masterpiece. I remember listening to this in the car and just wanting to play bass like this guy did. I can say that. This is one of those reissues because I don't have my original CD. Fucking awesome album. Awesome. Another one, I've talked about this story so many times. Some of you that's been watching me for a while is probably going, goddamn, same shit over and over again. But that's alright. It's no big deal. I know a lot of you are freaking awesome. Everybody in the VC is awesome. But yeah, Demc N Spice. So I didn't know much about the death metal outside the country at that time, except for Carcass, and maybe Entombed a little bit, and a couple others, but not like I do nowadays. So when I first heard this album was in Atlas, Missouri, which is basically, I think it's got one stop sign in it, basically. It's mostly cow pasture. But we was out there having a big fucking party one night. And like I said about this album previously, when I show it, big bonfire, lots of beer, chicks running around with half shirts on, tight freaking jeans, wearing their ropers, just a bunch of cowgirls. Listening to Garth Brooks and a bunch of other horse shit, which I still like, don't get me wrong, but just not what I was in the mood for, not what I listen to nowadays. So somebody snuck this in rotation at that party, and when the sun drank the weight of the water first played, I remember I was sitting in my lawn chair and I was pretty much half-baked, out of my mind, and listened to this entirely with all the background noise. This thing stood out. That gurgly vocals, I mean, I honestly thought it sounded like a bullfrog. The weird guitar progressions and off time. I was like, what the fuck is this? So eventually I found out it was this album. That's by one of my favorite Finnish death metal bands. This album goes way back with me, and this is my introduction into the Finnish death metal scene, which is my favorite death metal out of all death metal. I think it's something about it. There's some weird melodies they use that nobody else does, and the vocals seem to be more aggressive and guttural. They don't fuck around. It's a badass album. Demc N Spice, which means the penis. I did say that before. It's in the lyric sheet. Just look. I think they did that album a lot based around Dungeons and Dragons, if I remember the story correctly. The 16th 6-2 son of the 14th 4 regional dimensions, still unnamed. These song titles: Inherited Bowel Levitation, Reduced Without Any Effort, The Echo Replacement, The Putrefying Road in the 19th Extremity, Somewhere Inside the Bowels of Emptiness, and You'll Remain in Pieces in Nothingness. The planet that once used to absorb flesh in order to achieve divinity and immortality, suffocated to the flesh that is desired. Those freaking song titles are abstract and colorful. Fucking love it. Another one, a lot of people is going to frown, especially people that watch a lot of Justin because he likes to bitch about this album and some other, or not this album, this band. Oh, listen to that. That's that 12-string guitar. Back then in the 90s, it seemed like there's a lot of bands trying to do the unplugged thing. And I wish that song was longer. I mean, actually, it's perfect how it is, but still at the same time, it's one of those tracks you just wish had more to it. Maybe something heavy at the end. It's just fucking, I don't know, it's just an awesome closer. Awesome closer to the album. But anyway, I was showing an album that means a lot to me from 1993 is Pantera. And I did knock some people. Justin always bitches about this band. To me, back in 1993, all the thrash bands pretty much abandoned their sound and went to try to do this grunge horse shit. And I think Pantera, out of all of them, stepped it up a notch. Especially with Far Beyond Driven. Especially with this album. There is a lot of groove to this album. And that's what I really like about it. I love the experimentation by Dimebag with some of the guitar stuff. Especially the Becoming. I love that. I always thought it sounded like he was stepping on a cat's tail. Strength Beyond Strength. That is a fight fucking song. Beat people up. 5 Minutes Alone. Can't you give me 5 minutes alone? Oh, fuck. The Attitude. Slaughtered. Actually, I used to listen to that Slaughtered song a lot going deer hunting back then. Shedding Skin. I love that fucking track. Throes of Rejection. So whenever I first saw Pantera live, they, when was that? It was on this tour. And I want to say, yeah, it was Crowbar that opened up. And they had this small setup in the background. You could see Vinny's fucking massive drum set up at the top. So after Crowbar set, they cleared the stage. And the lights went down. And then all of a sudden, that kick drum from Throes of Rejection started coming on, which just pounded me in the chest. And fuck, lights come on, there they all fucking are, and they go into it. It's just fucking hell of a show. Hell of a fucking album. Fuck yes. Pantera's. Fuck yeah, that's a badass album. Getting down to my top 2 fucking favorite albums of 1993. Of course, Death. So I was already a huge Death fan at the time. I know I didn't really get into death metal until 1993, but I heard Scream Bloody Gore and Leprosy and Spiritual Healing back then, and thought it was more of a heavy-ass thrash. Actually, we used to compare Death as and Deicide, bands like that, as Slayer on steroids, and this was one of them. I remember the first track I heard on this was on Hell's Headbangers, and it was The Philosopher, and that freaking intro was that tap solo and this freaking epic, freaking doomy riff and those magical bass lines. Bass lines in this by Steve DiGiorgio is fucking outstanding. That's why this album is still one of my favorite Death albums. The production's kind of weird because the cymbals kind of sound blanketed a little bit, but it doesn't take anything away from this fucking album at all. Favorite tracks on this is Overactive Imagination, Jealousy, Trapped in the Corner, Nothing is Everything, Mentally Blind, the title track, Destiny. I love Destiny's acoustic guitar, Out of Touch, and The fucking Philosopher, 1993's most valuable, next to this next one I show, album of all time. Fuck yeah. Individual thought patterns. Badass list. All of these are not, I'm not trying to be like Marty said, Colty McCulterson and show you a bunch of shit you probably don't know. That might come out later time. And then my most favorite album of 1993 is gonna be Covenant. So 1993 I first heard Blessed Are the Sick, and this was released shortly after that. So the first two death metal albums I bought was actually Blessed Are the Sick and Immolation, Dawn of Possession. And sometime during that same maybe month, this was released. And I got this motherfucker. And it still blows me away till this day. It's one of my favorites. Morbid Angel albums. You know, Blessed Are the Sick and Altars of Madness are up there. I'd say a tie. It depends on what mood I'm in. So if I want to hear something magical, I'll put Blessed Are the Sick. If I want to hear something fucking evil as fuck, I'll put Altars of Madness. And if I want to hear something that's just brutal and heavy, and some parts are dirgy, some parts are fucking blast beats. The instrumentals on this album, the fucking guitar solos on this album. Trey outdid himself on this fucker. Rapture is my favorite song. Sworn to the Black, I love the breakdown with that tap solo and this freaking killer ass David Benson bass solo in the back behind it. I love that. I love the part on Lionsden that says whip cracks when the vocals go out and then just kick drums. That's fucking the little things in an album that get you. Angel of Disease. God damn that fucking riff. And that was on an earlier demo. I remember hearing that before it was put on this album. And Promised Land, World of Shit. World of Shit, The Promised Land. I had it backwards. And God of Emptiness. What an album closer. I love how Narmaturo has that Necronomicon, you know, and it brings you to that place. Some kind of desolate place with fog and freaking destruction with a bluish haze. That's what it brings me to. Album's a fucking masterpiece. And I don't give a shit what you think about this album. I know many of you like it. I thought this was the album that has a bunch of chicks hanging at their legs. It's not this one. Covenant. Fucking masterpiece. But anyway, that's my video. That's my 10 favorite albums, most meaningful albums of 1993. I hope you guys took the time to watch this video. I know a lot of you do. Anyway, I'm going to put links in the description below just in case nobody knows these. These are well-known albums, so I don't see that happening. "30-minute fucking video." I was gonna make a short video because I didn't know what to shoot, to be honest with you. I'm kind of waiting on some stuff to arrive in the mail so I can do some sort of collection updates. But anyway, you all have a fucking great day. I hope you guys enjoy this video. Hopefully there's people that build off on this and maybe share their favorite year. I'd love to see it. Or comment in the description below of your favorites from your favorite year. 1993 just so happens to be mine. Y'all have a good fucking day. Later all.